One of the things we're asked constantly at WePredict is how are electric vehicles performing out in the field? And what are the actual dollars that are exchanging hands for service, for things like repairs, maintenance, service campaigns? So it's not the typical cost of ownership metrics that maybe you're used to, but what I'm going to share with you today is what is the true cost that we're seeing out there today. So we've amassed billions of service records covering tens of millions of vehicles, 10 plus years of experience, and nearly all major models sold here in the US in both your franchise and also independent service facilities. And so the comparisons I'm going to share in the next few slides, they're not customer opinions, but they're actual cost from 2016 model year to 2021 models, covering about 83 million repair orders, 19 million plus vehicles, 20 billion in real dollars spent. Again, it's a big volume, and we call this deep view true cost. So we define true cost to be the actual dollars spent to keep a vehicle safe, operational, and on the road. So with that definition, it includes things like unplanned repairs. So something's broken, it's not working properly, you might term it warranty. Service campaigns, diagnostics are a big part of it, maintenance, software updates, and recalls. So let's begin with that first question. Will repair activity actually be lower with electric vehicles? We'll start looking at the first 3 months. Those are costs incurred the first 3 months after the vehicle is sold and on the road. And so shown here is total cost per vehicle, as I just defined on this earlier chart, of fully plug-in EVs compared to gas models, looking at across multiple model years that you can see. But one thing to note, you can see on both, regardless of the fuel type, that the costs are rising. So we're seeing that inflation happen across all of our vehicles right now. But what you also see is that at 3 months, even early on, cost per vehicle is 3 times higher on EVs than on gas models, regardless of the model year. Fast forwarding again and looking at the first 3 years in service, here we start to see an interesting trend. So by the time the EV has been on the road for 3 years, costs is about leveled out with their gas counterparts, with EVs at a similar, and in some years, at a lower cost than their gas counterparts. So let me break it down a little further. So splitting those costs into maintenance, repairs, and service campaigns, you can see that indeed we are seeing lower costs on maintenance. Maintenance cost per vehicle is lower, 1.2 times lower even at the 3-month period. However, if you look at repairs and service campaigns, they are 3 and 7 times higher. So one of the big areas that we're seeing here is impacting this is diagnostics. So it's taking about 1.5 times longer and at higher cost to diagnose the EVs. Techs are logging additional diagnostic hours. They're having to wait for answers many times from OEMs or EV experts in order to complete repairs. Overall, they're doing the right things. It's just taking a little longer. But by 3 years, again, another interesting trend, you can see maintenance is still much lower. You can see it's much lower on EVs. It remains lower. But now repairs and campaigns are still repairs are fairly similar, but campaigns are still a little bit higher. So what we're seeing here is really industry learning. We're an industry in launch. We're launching all those great new products, but also learning how to fix them, learning what the repair procedures are, finding the right education. We're very much an industry in learning. And if you think about it, we're just at the beginning of this launch tsunami that's coming your way. So talking about launch, we looked at the first year and following years of launch performance of just a number of recent EVs compared to the cost per vehicle performance of other models that are in their competitive set. So as you can see, with the most recent EV launches, they were all more on the worst in segment side. The closest one was actually the Mach-E, but even year 2, when we looked at year 2 of launch, none of the 2017 through 2020 launches moved to better than average as of yet. But that said, we did see significant generational improvement over time, 33% in frequency, 27% lower cost in the year after launch on EVs, and then another 14% in frequency and 65% improvement in cost year 2 after launch as the number of campaigns started to recede. Moving on to the top parts replaced and serviced on EVs. So in the first year on the road, and EVs are on the road, 4 of the top 10 parts by spend are EV specific. But while they can be high in cost, frequencies are somewhat lower. If we look at frequency-wise, cables are about 9% of parts replaced in the first year. Chargers make up about 3%. HV battery about 2%. Drive motors are at 1%. We seem to get the most questions on HV battery. Imagine why. So here's a few fun facts from our true cost field data. Software updates to improve things like range, correct errors, and parameters are the most frequent failure modes that we're seeing right now on HV battery. Disconnections, shorts, damage are also top issues. And now these are the scary numbers. The average cost to replace the HV battery, $16.1 thousand. And the lowest we've seen is about $4.5 thousand, with the highest yet at $71,000. Yes, 71,000. So average time to repair about 647 days, and it's taking on average about 3.5 hours per repair, though a few models are averaging anywhere from 12 to 13 hours a repair. So what does this mean for the outlook for EVs? Do EVs need fewer repairs? My answer, not yet. Maintenance is lower, but repair costs are triple in the first year, and campaign costs are 5 to 7 times higher. And our 8-year projections right now on HV battery range from anywhere from 200 to 1,600 incidents per 1,000 vehicles, depending on the model. But it's not just the parts. The labor costs are also higher on EVs. However, there is hope. Generational improvements are evident on EVs that have been in the market longer. So what does this mean to you? Plan for perpetual launch, as you've seen from all the great lineup we have coming for the next 5 to 7 years. But importantly, if the repair is taking longer, you're not alone. I've seen so many technicians lament that it's taking them longer, and they know, and they feel bad about it, some of them, but you're not alone. It just will take longer for a while. You have to anticipate those longer diagnostic times and follow-up times as part return requests. But forward-thinking groups and companies are using things like predictive analytics to help identify upcoming service spikes, technician and part trends to help get away from that. But overall, keep providing feedback, constant feedback to the OEMs and suppliers and your field staff on what's working and whatnot, because we are definitely all learning together. Thank you very much.